The Flash Season 2, Episode 15, King Shark. Now, of course, I really want to get to the ending, but I will kind of shoot through this episode and talk about just the crazy reveal that they had at the end. But aside from that, I did enjoy this episode. I thought this was actually a pretty fun episode. We got a pretty interesting crossover where we get to see only Lyla and Diggle from Arrow come over to the Flash. And they didn't have as big of a role as I thought they would because it was a crossover. I thought that they would have a couple more scenes in this or in this episode, but it still really focused a lot on the Flash characters. It wasn't like a typical crossover where it's like we have to work together a lot to like defeat this villain and stuff. It was just like, hey, Lyla is the head of Argus now, so she knows about King Shark, and basically we're here to tell you about King Shark. But they definitely had some good points. I really love Diggle's moment at the end of the episode where he gave like his final bits of advice to Barry, and it's like, because his first thing was like, you're kind of doing the same thing that Oliver does, where he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. But at the end, he put it into a lot of detail. Like, I've gone through that in war, and I've lost a ton of different people, and you have to realize that it's not your fault. Like, sure, technically, if you could go back in time and do something different, which Barry technically could, but time travel is bad. But sure, if you could go back in time and change things and do something different than you did, yeah, you could have saved him. But in that moment, you don't know what's the perfect answer, so you can't blame yourself for how something didn't work out in that situation and how you lost somebody else. So I really liked his parting words to Barry. I thought they were actually really good. I thought King Shark was actually a pretty awesome villain in this episode. I loved the defeat of King Shark. That was one of the coolest things they've done in a while with Barry's power, so that was very amazing to watch. We got to see him make basically a whirlpool, and he electrifies the water to shock King Shark, and then he does the lightning throw, which we haven't seen him do in a while. The last big move we saw him do was actually during the Reverse Flash episode when he phased through the wall, kind of just out of nowhere, and he just, rams into him. But that was amazing. I love getting to see that because we haven't seen him really use his powers, like, his kind of, I guess I'll say, high-level abilities in quite a while. It's just been, him running really fast. So I love getting to see him do the lightning throw. I love seeing him actually, put electricity into the water. And I actually like the way that they did it, where sharks can sense other creatures through, I forgot what it was like passive something, and I forgot the second word. But I thought that was cool, because I'm like, obviously he showed up at the house because he could smell him, and it was like, okay, it wasn't a blood thing. I'm like, there has to be something. So it was the electricity, and of course Barry puts off like the most electricity of nearly anyone on the planet, not counting Zoom. But I thought that was really cool, and of course the shock that he showed up, I knew that from the information, because me and my girlfriend were trying to figure out what we were going to watch together. But King Shark showing up at the house was very cool, and it led to a scene which I knew was going to happen after he showed up, because of course Barry went upstairs, and then poof, he's the Flash, and he goes through everything, and King Shark takes off, and they're cleaning up in the house, and I'm like, okay, clearly the fact that they're now just looking up at the ceiling and cleaning up and stuff means that they've had more than enough time to recognize who is and is not in the room. And I knew that Wally was going to bring that up, because it would be unbelievably suspicious. Like, oh, we were upstairs. It's not like in the other situations where, man, you took off and you left us behind. We're in the house and we all went upstairs, and then you didn't come down for like an extra 10 minutes or something. That's really weird. So I knew that was going to happen as soon as he came down the stairs. That would be insanely suspicious. And that's, of course, what happens. And that was like another little plot point in this episode with Wally and Barry, really trying to get to know each other. Mostly Barry trying to get to know Wally, because Wally still doesn't really like him. And in this episode, like, it kind of went back and forth, because at first it was kind of like, with Barry having like such a downer mood, he kind of like ended the game, and so it was kind of on him. It was like, all right, and Wally was kind of trying to make it work. And he was like, okay, maybe next time, and he wasn't like super upset about it or anything. He, kind of teased him a little, like, are you afraid of competition? But he was like, maybe next time, and it seemed fairly friendly, and it was kind of more Barry's fault, with it being an issue, and then it kept being his fault when Joe basically tricked Barry and said like, oh, Wally needs your help, but of course he lied and just wanted them to talk. And Barry kind of took over, because he's a genius, and that's kind of what he does. He knows what he's talking about, so he was kind of just, shooting through it, and Wally felt like he was kind of excuse me, kind of being left behind, like, it's my project, and you're just like, this is wrong and that's wrong. But I felt like Wally did get super annoyed really fast, because I could see where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, Barry is trying to help, and he just got mad, and then it went right back to like, yeah, Wally's just being prissy a little bit, and he's just being super annoyed over stuff where it's like, it's not really Barry's fault. Like that first moment when they were doing the game, and like half of the situation when he was kind of taking over the project, like, this is wrong and that's wrong. But after that, it just went right back to Wally kind of being a little bit of a prick, and I was like, that's annoying. That sucks, because I thought that was over, and I thought it would be more Barry's issue of trying to fix things, and Wally's trying to work with him. But it went back and forth, and ultimately, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll work out. I thought Barry might end up revealing himself to Wally in this episode, because it just made sense. Like, he's getting attacked. Maybe he just couldn't do it. Like, if he grabbed him, he'd have no choice, basically. He'd either just attack him, or I mean, I don't know what he could do. I mean, unless he ran upstairs and then came down as the Flash or something. Uh, Even though Wally was in King Shark's hands or something. But I thought that could happen, which I think would have been really awesome. Because, of course, like everyone, I'm just waiting for Wally to end up as a speedster, which I think the first step to that will be him finding out that Barry's the Flash, because of course everything is about speed with him. So it's like he wants to make these, jet engine cars and stuff like that. So as soon as he finds out, I feel like it'll be like 2 episodes, but I know it won't be. But I would love for it to be like he found out, and then like 2 episodes later, he ends up getting into like the same experiment or whatever that changed Barry. But I like how they did King Shark. I thought he was awesome. He was super strong. Giant sharks. He was a great white shark, so he was, plus, with the legs, so he was like the size of a huge great white shark, like a 16-foot shark, but vertical, instead of horizontal. So that was really awesome. He had a ton of strength. I think the first time he killed anybody, they showed it when he like jumped out of the water and he ate like 2 guys at once. That's what it looked like, at least. It's like his mouth was so wide he ate those 2 guys at one time. I thought that was a great shot. I was like, that was actually really cool. And they did the cool. He did like the spring out of the water when they had the flash dummy on the buoy, and he jumped out, and they do it in slow motion and stuff, and he grabs it. Then they did another slow motion thing when he jumped in the air and landed on the docks. So they had a couple of really great shots. Barry running on the water and King Shark like swimming underneath him and stuff, trying to catch him and popping up a little bit. So they had some great shots of him. I thought it was very cool. Like I said, I certainly loved the way that they ended it, where he's running on water and stuff. Because we haven't seen him. I don't think we've ever seen him actually fight on water before. So that was actually very cool. And aside from that, we've only seen him really do anything on water like twice, and that was in the both times were in the first season, when he had to take the woman's body out into the middle of the water because she was going to explode, so he had to run her out really fast, and basically it was like, a straight line. He ran out, dropped her, and ran right back, and he did it super fast, but that was it. And then when he went through time, it was still just like he just ran in a circle, and it looked kind of cool because they had the CG of like the wall of water rising because he was running so fast, which they kind of did in this as well. You could see the water kind of spreading and stuff like that, so it was pretty cool. I love getting to see more water action. I'd love to see way more of that because he's running on water, so it's really freaking awesome. Which they referenced, so I guess that was foreshadowing, because when Wally's talking to him about being a coward and stuff, before he actually says him, like, I guess you're just a coward, he was like, the way they talk about you, it's like you can run on water. So I guess that was not so subtle foreshadowing, because it was King Shark, so I guess I should have expected him to run on water at some point. But he does say that, and it's like, oh, look at that. The whole ending scene, the way he defeats the villain this episode is that he runs, on water. So that was definitely really awesome. The other, I guess the third little storyline in this episode is with Caitlin, and how she's dealing with the loss of yet another person that she cared about. And I love the fact that both Cisco and Barry kind of suck at keeping secrets. They've been back, I think they do mention it was like a whole day or maybe 2 days or something, or about a week. It actually been quite a few days. So they did hold off for a bit, but then it was just like they both screwed up. And of course, Cisco, I think, had a much better reason, because he was freaking out that Caitlyn was going to turn into Killer Frost. So that was actually very funny. Especially when she was messing with him at the end and she said like she hated the name and everything. But that I thought was actually pretty funny. And then Barry just having his issue in general, explaining everything to Iris and Joe. Yeah, it kind of made sense and stuff. But with Cisco, I thought it was just definitely really funny, and I was never worried about it. I know he kept saying it like, "Oh, she's being really cold," and he was freaking out, but I knew it was because she was hurt. Like it made perfect sense to me, but it was really funny the way that she kind of handled it when she knew what the truth was and exactly why he was so worried about her. So I enjoyed that. I like the fact that we got to see Wells working with his daughter. That was kind of cool because I didn't know that she knew any of that stuff. Like when they had her introduction early on this season during the flashback, I don't think they really specified like, oh, she's like this really smart kid or anything, or that she knew basically everything that her father knows. It was just like that's his daughter. They never really said anything about how smart she was, so it was pretty cool to see that they could work together. That she was as smart as him. It was great that she wasn't really complaining a lot in this episode because that was a thing when they were leaving Earth 2. It's like this guy has super speed. You saw what he could do. He phases through things, and you're worried about leaving your friends and stuff. And it's a big deal. It's not like I want to demean the fact that that's a huge thing, but at least you won't be dead. And that was all. I think everyone can kind of say the same thing. She was instantly just like, "We're gonna leave our family. Like this guy has effing super speed. Yes, we are. We're gonna leave this dimension basically because we have to survive." So it was good to see that that was basically gone in this episode because it easily could have been here. It was only the next episode, but it wasn't like that. And she, even when she was talking to him, it was like, you wanted me to, we left our home, and you don't want me to sulk around and be upset. So now I'm here, and you're telling me to go away. So I like the fact that they were working together. She kind of messed with Cisco, so I like that. I was glad to see that it wasn't her complaining and stuff like the kind of the way that they did it in the last episode. But I thought it was pretty fun. The main story was definitely entertaining. Like I said, I enjoyed seeing Lyla and Diggle there. Um, it's kind of weird with it being this being like a crossover episode. It's funny that Lila's first episode as the head of Argus is in Flash because they mentioned it in the last episode of Arrow. They kind of just referenced it, and it was just totally in passing, and it was like a big deal because of what happened. And I'm trying not to spoil it, but I guess you should have seen it by now. So sorry if you haven't. But she's the head of Argus for a reason, and it was kind of funny, like with her having been introduced in Arrow, her first even half of an episode as being the head of Argus was actually during a little crossover thing in the Flash. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I enjoyed getting to see them there. I really loved Diggle's final words to Barry because it was clear Barry was kind of coming off of having the issue that he had, and he was kind of stepping up to the plate really. And then I think Diggle kind of gave him that final push, like you just shouldn't freak out whatsoever about what did happen and blame yourself or anything like that. So enjoyed that. King Shark was awesome. Of course, made for a great ending fight scene because that was really sweet. And all the other little character development moments were pretty good. I think Joe and Wally had a pretty good moment as well after Wally finished his assignment. They were at Jitters, and Joe's kind of explaining everything to him. Like we kind of give him everything he needed because Barry was in a terrible position, and yeah, he's my son, but so are you. And I thought that was actually a good moment. I think it was a great point for Wally to really recognize how they do really see Barry and how they kind of talk him up so much because of what he came from. Like, as Joe said, it could have really gone a totally different path where his mom is dead, his dad's gone and falsely imprisoned. So, it was just actually really cool, and I think that was a great moment for Wally to recognize that, they talk so much about Barry because he went through so much crap, and, he's going to fit right in. So I think that'll be good for them. Hopefully in the next episode they have, we get to see Wally and Barry finally just connect, even though that's not going to be for a full freaking month, which I have no idea why this is happening, but oh, it's a month away. I don't know what is going on with that. If you guys know why we're getting a full month break, I would love to know the reason. Because when they first mentioned it was coming back at some time, I didn't really recognize the fact that the date was a month away. I was just like, always going on break for a week or whatever because spring break is coming up, and sometimes they choose a specific week based on, I guess, whichever whenever the most people go on break or something. But it was like, nope, full month, like 4 weeks for whatever random reason. So I don't know. I guess they just didn't. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that really surprised me. So it sucks that it's going to be a full month away, which really hurts because of course we get our final crazy scene for this episode, which I loved because it did seem like they were not going to show anything. They were just talking about it like, oh, it sucks that that happened and things like that. And I was like, with this being the episode after um, Jay gets taken away or killed, we still aren't really sure. I was like, they have to show us something. And they show us Zoom, which is the greatest little after credit scene ever. And I think that was probably as big as finding out about Wells from the first season, which I think was very awesome. And all I could think was, I knew because I was watching it with my girlfriend, I was just like, I knew it. All I could think of, I was just like, I freaking knew it. And I'm kind of mad because after last week's episode, I was like, I should do a video talking about, is Jay Garrick Zoom? I just didn't think they would show it in the very next episode. We'd find out who Zoom was. So I was like, crap. If I knew, of course, if I knew, I would have done it. But I never would have thought it would have been so soon after that crazy moment happened that we would get the official reveal. I was like, that probably won't happen for like a couple of weeks. We still won't know who Zoom is. I was like, nope. Crazy ending of the last episode. Whole thing is just King Shark and Earth One stuff, and it's like, here it is. We get to see Zoom. So it's still a big mystery how it's happening. So I'm assuming it's going to be clones. I feel like that has to be the reason. I read a comment where someone mentioned, what if the person in the mask was actually an Earth 2 version of Wally? Because Zoom is actually like Wally's counterpart in the comic books. Like Reverse Flash is Barry's thing, and Zoom is actually Wally's thing. So I think that would actually be a cool little way to kind of stick with the comics if that was actually Wally. But I think I mentioned before, because it was hard to tell. I was trying to figure out if the guy in that mask was black or white, because I was like, it could have been the light. But I'm pretty sure that was a black, not a black guy, but I'm pretty sure it was a white guy because they showed the back of his head. And I was like, it could be like a messed up version of Jay, and that's why, he looked white. It could still be a black guy because it was like a quick 2-second scene. But at the same time, everyone kind of has the same age and everything. And also his hair color seemed more like Jay's hair color. So I'm pretty sure it was a white guy. It wasn't a black guy. But I'm assuming it has to be clones. And I know I was talking all that stuff last time. Like, I don't know if he's just playing everybody or what the heck is freaking happening. But the way it ended with Zoom, where he says this is a complication, I just don't know what that means. I don't know, because there has to be a scene. I mean, technically it was only in flashbacks, so we don't know 100% exactly what happened with Jay and Zoom during that scene before Jay got like carried up into the rift and everything. But I don't know. It was just really crazy because I could have sworn they had a scene together before, but I guess they never had. So it was almost like it was his first time actually seeing his doppelganger or something. And it's just like, it's got to be clones. It's got to be clones because we have, unless Hunter Zolomon from Earth One, and I mentioned that before as well, unless that really was Zoom, and it's just like some other weird stuff happening, it's got to be clones. That's like the only explanation. And whoever's in this mask is going to be, if it is Earth 2 Wally, that would be very interesting. But I'm pretty sure it was a guy that was white. So I would think that it's like a really messed up version of Jay, if that's like the original Jay Garrick. And that kind of takes me back to the whole particle accelerator thing, where we still don't technically know why, you know, Wells and Jay have like their sort of confrontation with each other. So maybe something did happen, and maybe he just split up into like 3 counterparts on Earth 2, and it's like we have the first version that was captured, which is the guy in the mask now, and then we have Zoom, and then we have the Jay that we know is like the typical Earth 2 Flash. But I don't know, like it's just some crazy stuff. And Jay mentions it was either Jay or I'm pretty sure it was Jay, but he mentioned really early on there was an explosion before the big explosion of the particle accelerator on Earth 2. So every time, ever since then, it's like that has to be something. And I was kind of right. I was like, I figured that before. Like there was some crazy way that they were split up, and I thought Zoom might be Jay, and he had no idea that that was one of his like a version of him that split off. And apparently that's the case because he had no idea that it was him. So that is exactly what happened. He somehow got split up. He may have been split up into three, if that really is Jay in the mask, another version of Jay. But I don't know. That was a crazy reveal. I certainly loved it. I was glad to get that reveal. I'm sure a lot of people still wish it was Henry Allen because it would have been great to have him back. And that would have been really awesome if he was Zoom, because it would have been cool to get the actor back. And he was, he was Flash in the original Flash series, so it would have been awesome to see him, even if it was as a villain for, just this season. To see him as a speedster again would have actually been pretty sweet. But I don't know what to expect now. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be clone. I feel like it has to be clones. That's like my number one thing. I'm still wondering if the Hunter's Element thing, the Earth One deal, was purely for comic books, reference sake, just to be like, here's a cool reference and stuff, or if that was just meant to be because they knew, of course, they knew Jay was going to be Zoom. They did that on purpose. Like, Jay is Zoom, but not this version of Jay. That was probably why they did that. Like, oh, Hunter's Element is Zoom, but technically, it's Earth 2 Jay, so he's not Hunter's Element in Earth 2. But whatever it is, whatever the answer is going to end up being, I read an article that said they're going to give us little bits and pieces still, but it's supposed to be a satisfying result as to why this is happening, how it's happening, and everything. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I knew it. I was like, it has to be Jay. That's just the only thing that made sense. They were dropping enough hints and all that weird suspicious stuff. It wasn't how I thought where he was playing everybody, but maybe they did that on purpose too, where Jay just for whatever reason wasn't showing up when the Geomancer guy showed up last time. Just a bunch of weird stuff. But maybe they did that on purpose. Like he really was just somehow not there. I still don't get it. But for whatever reason, they did that on purpose just to make us go towards the actual answer. And now it's still really crazy because how are there two, if not three or four, counting the Earth 1 counterpart? But definitely loved the reveal. Did enjoy the episode as well. It was definitely good. It wasn't like just the ending I love. It was a really good episode, but I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. Simple question. What do you think of the reveal at the end? It was amazing to me. Want to know if you thought it was Zoom or if you thought it was Jay or, anyone else really, because they did kind of take out alternate Barry and stuff like that. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about that insane reveal. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.